We have a lot to discuss this morning. The tentative topic of this is what America will look like at the end of the road. What will the end of America look like? What will the termination of America look like, if that's even possible? It's a critical thing to ask. What will it look like? What will it look like? What does the potential death of a civilization look like, or the death of a country? Is it noticeable? What happens? Does it maintain a seeming functionality? What? I don't know. These are things I want to know. We're going to be talking about this, some other things too. And by the way, remember that when I speak with you, dear friends, there is a change, sometimes a change that may happen from the time that I write the subject to 5 minutes before I even begin this effort. So I have things to add, things that change. So don't ever think that I am focused on this particular subject matter. Okay? Let me start off by saying, first of all, a special congratulations to our dear friend Liz Solak. 28 years today, she became a mother. God bless you. Let's hear it from mothers. All you mothers out there, all you mothers, God bless you. Now, a couple of things I want to tell you. First and foremost, and this is very, very important. This is the last day of this month before we begin. Who knows, where did the summer go? I don't know. I'm not going to be one of those people who says, where did the summer go? I don't know where the summer went. I have no idea. This is called time. What are you going to do? Things happen. If you want to play that, my God, I was just here the other day, and next, it was 1968, and here we are. I hate that. You know how time lapses and the like. I want to talk to you about a couple of things first and foremost, in no particular order. First, I say this partly out of some degree of pettiness. It's very much inside baseball, and it's something I think you will find of interest. I am very, very concerned over the fact that I believe that our dear friend, Mr. Tucker Carlson, has no idea what he's doing. I think he is rudderless. I think he is without any kind of direction. And I think he is taking this most unique opportunity and wasting his time by, I don't know what he's doing. I don't know the particular reason for this. If you get a chance, and I've only seen portions of this, there is a interview that he did with Bill O'Reilly, and Bill O'Reilly is the consummate blowhard, a bombast of, and that's the shtick. And listen, I love a shtick. I got it. It's the angle. It's like, what is your angle? It's like professional wrestling. What are you? Okay, you're the Samoan. Okay, I got it. What are you? What is your thing? Bill O'Reilly claims to be from Levittown. He's a real rough and tumble, no nonsense, ham and egger. No big words, nothing fancy, rude, crude, bombastic, boorish. And he's been extremely successful, but intellectually, not at all challenging. Nothing that's even remotely intriguing, but successful nonetheless. I'm just saying. I mean, it's just like the Ramones. I'm never going to try to say to you that the Ramones weren't important or weren't special, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a group that meant nothing to me, but historically they meant quite a bit. Does that make sense to you? To me, they mean nothing. Hip hop, I never listened to ever, but I can tell you mathematically the effect that hip hop has had on everything else. You got that one? Okay. Now, there is a show, a YouTube show that is entitled, it's called America's Untold Stories. It's with Eric Hunley and a fellow by the name of Mark Grubert, or Grubert, Groubert. America's Untold Stories. I'm not one for. I mean, I watch people sparingly, and this is no big deal. And I'm sure people do the same thing with me. I watch people sparingly, but this is one of the best shows ever. And this fellow, Mr. Grubert, is one of the preeminent Kennedy assassination scholars, bar none. Bar none. You could whatever you think or not think. Believe me when I tell you this. He is incredible. Okay, now for reasons that are I don't understand why Mr. O'Reilly decides he is going to appear with Tucker to talk about Lee Harvey Oswald and the like. And I don't know. O'Reilly's done very, very well with these books. I don't know if he's written them, have ghostwriters. I have no reason. People who do research, I've not read them, but he's very successful. And anything that encourages reading, I think is terrific, and we all should laud him accordingly. Okay, fine. He said something the other day regarding Lee Harvey Oswald, as far as Lee Harvey Oswald being stupid, an idiot, an imbecile, and it's just wrong. It's just wrong. He basically pulled it out of his arse. He just made it up. I was listening to Mr. Gruber and others, and he is rattling off names and facts that I know O'Reilly knows nothing about and most probably doesn't care anything about, because that's the way he is. And I got it and I understand. Okay, fine. What's interesting is that nobody seems to care about the truth. You can just claim to be whatever you want. Now, to show you, I have just there has been so much. It's such I can't say it enough. A great perspective on things that I have never really thought about. The Japanese, virtually every conceivable form of fact that we have regarding Oppenheimer. This great Oppenheimer, according to the thesis of Mr. Gruber, he was a commie, and okay, fine. And FDR, and I love, you must understand this, the part of me that says, I love when somebody comes along and says, what you thought before is not true. And I find it particularly distasteful and particularly problematic when somebody says things about the Kennedy assassination that also are not true. It just drives me nuts, because that is blasphemy. It'd be like if I were to go on and make up things about Jesus, and you would say, well, a little bit different than, but it would be the same thing. You would say, how dare you? And I don't think you pull a Charlie Hebdo on me, but you would say, wait a minute, don't do that. Same thing goes for this. How dare you say something about this event that changed all of us, me and others as well, permanently and indelibly. And you're just making stuff up because you think, because I'm Bill O'Reilly and nobody stops me and I can say whatever I want. And there's a certain degree of impunity. And I think it's because of intellectual torpor that also adds to this. All right. So I can't explain to you enough how again, infuriated I am when I hear this O'Reilly. And you got to ask yourself, why is, see, I don't want to get too deep. I don't want to get too deep, but you know, and I know that, and we can always say CIA. CIA is always like a throwaway for everything. Whenever you want to talk about intel, we always say, well, the CIA. It may not be CIA, but you and I know that there is this, for lack of a better word, this intelligence connection that always uses and has employed entertainment since day one, from art in the 50s up to and including through this. It's so old. I don't want to waste your time with it because it is so fascinating. And again, Mr. Gruber has discussed this. Interesting note, by the way. When I went to follow him on Twitter, he blocked me. Have you ever had that happen? Have you ever been blocked? And you're saying, I don't know this person. What if I don't know him? Have I said anything? This was before. But it doesn't matter. It's a free country. And I understand. Believe me, most people who do not like me do not know me. And I can understand how, for whatever reason, maybe who knows? There's no way. But isn't that funny? But notwithstanding the fact that I've been isolated, rebuffed, I've been isolated to Twitter Elba, so to speak, which is fine. It's still one of the best sites there is. And I want you to understand the necessity of this. Corbett, James Corbett is one of the Alex Jones has done things. By the way, I wish I could tell you, but I can't. That the kind of like the dark web, so to speak, the dark web, not the dirty, sexual, violent, but the alternative web regarding what's going on shows tumultuous changes coming in the Alex Jones empire. The whole thing with the Mug Club, I don't know what it is, because these were people who were a part of this group of folks, and they were part of the Wild West days of the internet, and how much I love that. Okay, put that there for a second, okay? That's number one. Next, I'm going to talk about Bobby Kennedy. Very important. But first, I want you to listen to me very carefully. I told you this, and today is the last day of the month. And now is the time for you. To immediately go to the great folks from My Patriot Supply, and specifically preparewithlionel.com. Now is the time. You can save, ready for this, 25% off a 3-month emergency food kit. 25%, a quarter. Knock it off. 25% off a 3-month emergency food kit. We've talked about this. I'm sitting right now in New York City, and it is dark, and it is rainy, and it is overcast. And yesterday, LaGuardia was flooded, and there was this dark pall, this net of darkness that. Okay, fine. You got the point. And what's equally interesting and what's fascinating about all of this stuff is that it provides this, I don't know what the word is, this reminder of how tenuous everything is. And when it comes to your ability to live and to be able to enjoy food, water, and energy is, we'll talk about that later on. Water, purification and the like, but if the spigots go off, you are SOL. That's why you got to protect. But food, when stores are unavailable, when trucks aren't able to deliver because of either strikes or because of unrest or because of weather or because of what have you, you will then realize, as thousands of Americans have, that preparing for food, but emergency food, is the smartest thing ever. I want you to understand something, and I don't want to go into detail. I've been offered the chance to do some interesting sponsorships. And I said, I don't like this. First of all, I may not understand it. It may be a claim that's too whatever. And sometimes there's a way to take a product and then to say, okay, but I'm going to say this about it. I'm going to say this about it. And then there are others that you have to reject outright. The idea of emergency food, I wanted this. I've been advocating this for decades because it, to me, is the thing that makes the most sense. This is before the notion of the pepper came along. So preparewithlionel.com. This is a 25-year shelf life. There's simply nothing like this. Preparewithlionel.com. Join the thousands and thousands of individuals who recognize how smart this is. 21 varieties, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, resealable vacuum or oxygen absorbing pouches, 120 pounds of food we're talking about with the 6 buckets, waterproof. Save 25% off a 3-month emergency food kit. Go right now. The link is on the title, on the description page and the comment section. Preparewithlionel.com. Thank you. Okay, now let's go back. Let's go back to what we're saying. First, let me see. Yes. Let's talk about Bobby Kennedy. Okay. Now, I want you to do something which is very important to me. And I want you to do this for yourself and for your own peace of mind. I want you, first of all, never to listen to anybody, including me, ever again. Let me guide you. Let me assist you. Let me give you here's a fact which you might like. But everything that I say ultimately must be accepted by you, independent of what I'm saying. Number one. Can't say that enough. Number two. everybody on the internet, specifically when it comes to internet, this streaming platforms, everybody wants to act like they're the last word in politics, that they know stuff you don't know, that they are the okay. That's the way that is. And it has to be, because nobody wants to go and listen to somebody on a news platform who says, well, I don't know, maybe. There has to be a degree of certitude, or else nobody's going to bother with this. All right, fine. Next. There are people who will stick to doctrinaire, kind of tried and true stuff. If the facts change your opinion. As AOC calls him, Milton Keynes or Keynes. You got John Maynard Keynes and Milton Friedman confused. John Maynard Keynes says, when the facts change, it changed my opinion. Now, let me ask you this question. Bobby Kennedy, I've been talking about, how long have I been talking about Bobby Kennedy? Gavin Newsom, he's more and more in the news with appointing a black woman. Can you imagine a governor saying, I'm going to appoint a white man? I'm going to appoint a white man. Imagine what that is like. Ladies and gentlemen, there she is. Edie Crowley says, there's nothing like being a mom. It's underrated. Without a doubt. Thank you for that to you. And to Liz, also, it's a spiritual thing. It's a connection by virtue, because you are literally from the same body. Bobby Kennedy is going to run. He's going to appear on perhaps a ballot, maybe as a libertarian, Green Party, whatever it is. Question number one. Whom do you think he will take most points and votes from? Joe Biden or Donald Trump? Let me ask you this first question. He's gonna pull from either one of the two. Who would be most likely to vote for him? A Donald Trump voter or a Joe Biden? Let's call it Joe Biden, because it's going to be a Gavin Newsom voter. But let's just, for the sake of, all right, let's call it Joe Biden, a Democrat. Who do you think would say, oh, I'm going to stick with Bobby Kennedy? Democrat? Bobby Kennedy talks about guns. Bobby Kennedy talks about maybe war. That's good. Bobby Kennedy talks about the environment, maybe some climate change stuff. He's against transgender. He will try his best to discuss vaccinations and immunology. But for the most part, he will say things in his default mechanism that a Democrat would be able to listen to. Republicans dislike Bobby Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy is a Republican. Now, most, the default mechanism type. When he talks about guns, this drives Republicans crazy. Nuts. Drives them nuts. You can't talk about getting rid of guns, and can't do that. Cannot do that. No. Okay, good. Regarding vaccines and the like, ladies and gentlemen, that may be the part that a lot of subdirectories of Republicans enjoy, because what used to be the left is now the right. What used to be the province of the left, free speech and open, is now the right. It's switched completely. Everybody now is saying that MAGA, big money people, are promoting Bobby Kennedy because they secretly hate Joe Biden. Okay. And then because they hate Joe Biden, whatever. Okay, fine. I don't care how this thing works. I want, number one, if I could say, I'm going to destroy this Democratic Party and have a weak and effete and a paralyzed Democratic candidate win, versus, ideally it would be okay. Remember, if Trump wins, he still has to deal with this juggernaut, this group called the Democrats. So they have to, if they're just as powerful as they are now, nothing will get done. But it's worth a shot. But I want first and foremost. So if Bobby Kennedy can do anything by virtue of his coming here to make people ask questions, to make people maybe make Democrats say to themselves, what are they really doing for me? What is going on here? What is going on? Where is this? Who is asking to cut ceiling fans and pizza ovens and trans this and that? Where is, okay, fine. So he may be able to do that. That's important. Either way, we have right now this president that is scaring the hell out of the left, out of the Democrats, and Bobby Kennedy is scaring them as well. And what they're doing right now, as you saw Mediaite. Let me tell you something. Mediaite is and by the way, they're very good, but you understand they're lefties. I mean, really serious lefties. You know that, right? Of course you do. You know that. I know that. We all know that. And here is this one piece I want to show you. This is this one, and I hope dear friends, you are following. Please following my Twitter page. And where is this? Let me read this for you. This is the actual. I did a screenshot from Mediaite, and it reads as follows because I don't want to misspeak. Let me see. I don't want to misspeak. Stand by for a second. Oh, here we go. It says, Kennedy, a notorious anti-vaccine conspiracy theorist, challenging incumbent President Joe Biden for the Democratic nomination, has been flirting with a third-party run in recent weeks. Kennedy, quote, a notorious anti-vaccine conspiracy theorist. This is the official word from the professional left. They are sworn to do this. They are sworn to say this. They are sworn to repeat this mantra whenever you say anything about Bobby Kennedy. He's a conspiracy theorist. How many are you following any of the information that is coming out now? I mentioned this Dr. John Campbell and others. People who are just the overwhelming this flood, this tsunami of information regarding people who have been seriously hurt, allegedly, by vaccines. Where is it? Do you see what's happening here? I do. It's incredible. So when you say anti-vaccine conspiracy theorists, that doesn't hold the same weight now that it did then. But Mediaite is committed either specifically, expressly, to repeat this particular trope, or they happen to think it anyway. I don't know. There is a skepticism that people love to have in this country. People love to be skeptical. Well, I don't know. Well, he's a tin fat foil hat. Just like I mentioned, prepping. People love to make fun of preppers. I don't know why. They love it. It makes them feel superior. In any event, this is going to be one of the most exciting races ever because we are getting to the bottom of two. We're getting to groups of people who are addressing the absolute basic fundamentals, of what our different political systems are about. That's it. So you can argue all day long. Is it going to hurt Trump? Is it going to hurt? You tell me. You tell me. People love to speak about it apodictically. They love to speak about it in terms of absolutism. Yes, without a doubt. I don't know. All I know is what we used to know is over. It's over. And let me go back to what I said about this Untold Stories. What we are learning, the people who have been so great, I mentioned this before, and whether you like them necessarily or not, I know this. I like this man. Silver Fox says, looking for your opinion. If it ends up being Newsom, DeSantis, and RFK on the ballot, which way will it go? Biden and Trump are not locks to me. I agree. If it's Newsom, DeSantis, and RFK on the ballot, if in that case it'll be Newsom. And by the way, Fox, thank you, my friend. That's to you. Remember something. Let me say this carefully. The Democrats will cheat legally. They will steal the election legally. They know 50,000 ways to win, and they will do it without a doubt. So if those are the three, yeah. Do not run. Remember, Trump doesn't follow any of the rules. Trump lives in a separate universe. I can't explain. I can't put it into words. Everything that you would think would apply to Trump doesn't. For reasons I will never understand, for reasons that just absolutely confound me to no end. Trump is just on another planet. If I didn't know better, I'm thinking this crazy New York judge who basically said that Mar-a-Lago is 18 million. Is he? See, I'm always, people think I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm really not. But I ask myself, just in terms of the plot line, do you think maybe they're doing this on purpose to give Trump something to appeal and win? I don't know. But what's happening to him is beyond anything anybody's ever seen. Think about it. We live right now in this world where Joe Biden has to go down the kiddie stairs on the plane. Let me ask you something. Do you know what the biggest fear is right now? What the biggest concern right now? And if it were anybody else, I would say it was sad, but not for Biden. You know what the biggest fear is? Let me tell you. Everybody has said, from what I'm hearing from my sources, everybody is telling me that every doctor, every physician has said, Biden, if this were anybody else, needs a walker. He's unsteady on his feet. He's gait. If you've ever seen anybody who fears falling, who's older, who's tenuous in their gait, anybody, it's a fear, and the fear lends itself to more overly exaggerated forms of careful walk. It's really something. It's very, very sad. He can't be seen with a walker. A president, it's like having, remember those ear trumpets? What? Those before hearing aids? What? Can't have that. They will not let him do it. Maybe he's funny that way himself. He says, I can't. He needs a walker. He needs one of those walkers where you can sit down. He would do much better, but he can't do it by virtue of the vibrancy and the vivacity that he must exude at all times. That's what they're afraid of more than anything else. And they realize it's really unfair to him that they have to do something in order to deal with his feebleness. So that's that. Going back to what I said before, there's some other things which are important. By the way, I hope you are following my Twitter feed. I can't tell you how important Mr. Gruber, notwithstanding. By the way, still is a great son, irrespective. And Eric Hunley is a very nice gentleman. I like him a lot. We are done. I did a poll right now, and I said, remember Oppenheimer? Remember when Oppenheimer was all of a sudden this full tilt 8? Well, I asked a question. Oppenheimer was a full tilt 18 karat, 100% communist whose legacy is being manipulated still post hoc, post mortem. 64% say true. I love when somebody goes back and they change an accepted way of thinking, if you will. Look at this. Thousands of migrants are being dropped off on San Diego's streets. More and more people are just seeing these illegals. By the way, they're not migrants, just dropped off. And nobody ever picks them up anymore. Very, very sad. I wrote there was a poll. Who would appeal more to the prototypical classic Democratic voter? Bobby Kennedy, hands down, versus Gavin Newsom. Who would benefit from a Bobby Kennedy third-party independent run? 60% in my poll say Trump, without a doubt. We're also using the thing zero emissions. Zero emissions. Remember one thing. These people love euphemisms. They have always loved euphemisms. They love, as part of its government speak, but also euphemisms and rephrasings are very misleading. So they don't want to say electric vehicles. They want to say zero emissions. They don't want to say illegal aliens. They say migrants, happy wanderers, freedom seekers, freedom fighters, terrorists, evangelicals, Bible thumpers, depending upon where you're from. We're also having this thing right now of talking about this, which is really, this really goes against the grain. But I want you to think about this, and I want you to give you an assignment. I want you to go back and listen to some of the people. You might not want to, but you might want to listen to Milton Friedman, Thomas Sowell. I like him. Thomas Sowell was a Marxist, a real Marxist, an actual economic Marxist. But you have to ask yourself this new thing right now. Do we need the minimum wage? Does the minimum wage serve any purpose whatsoever? There's this story now. There are people in New York who want to just deliver stuff. They put these backpacks on that are insulated, and they go on bikes and they kill you as you cross the street, but they deliver food to you. And the question is, should they be able to do it? And they're saying, no, we demand $18, whatever, an hour. Why do we do that? Why is that? Why does that make sense? Why does that make sense? It's if you're the recipient, it sounds wonderful, but in the long run, it doesn't make any sense. So go back and look at this. Go back and there are people right now, you may have heard about this. In some places, there are these little restaurants that pop up, and they're not really restaurants. They're just sort of, I think they mentioned on America's Untold Stories. In LA and others, there's these little, they're not pop-ups, but they have a little factory or something, and they cook. And you go online and you get Thai, and somebody will mix your food up and bring it to you. But it's not a restaurant. It's not licensed. It's not. And you can argue whether there's whatever. And they're saying you can't do this. And I'm saying, why? Because people cannot just serve food and have it delivered. Why? No, you've got to have a health certificate. Why? Now, granted, somebody somewhere is going to maybe have a horrible job, but you're going to go out of business if you kill one of your people. And I would venture to say that the chances of that are very, very rare. Why are we're going to be going back to the 80s, to a Reagan era, kind of a Reaganomics, and read the Mises von Hayek folks from Mont Pelerin Society. Mont Pelerin Society is this is their Bilderberg. This is where the Milton Friedman type Mont Pelerin meet every day. And listen to what they say about freedom to just do stuff. Why do we need this? I'm telling you, we're going to be readdressing this. A lot of the folks in the proverbial left are not going to allow this. Sparky says Oppenheimer only went to the Communist Party meetings to meet girls. Like Einstein, he was somewhat of a womanizer. No. What you're reading is the narrative. What you're reading is the apologist narrative. You don't know if that's true. I suggest to you that no. That it might have been a different time, but our sensibilities then were far different. And that we might have said, you know what, screw it, we need the bomb. But that doesn't mean that he is not a full-fledged. I mean, it's one thing to have an ideology where you're kind of leftist in general, as opposed to the party, especially when, remember what Soviet and Stalin and Trotsky, and it was a different time. So Sparky, you remember, this is the narrative. He didn't understand it then. He might have flirted. He didn't really understand. Ask yourself, am I repeating the narrative, or how do I know what I know? From an epistemology point of view, how do you know what you know? How do you know this? Many people have said, people never want to admit that McCarthy was right in so many respects. You can't be an American and say that Joe McCarthy was right. But much of what he said was absolutely correct. Absolutely. Absolutely. Even though he's a crazy and a drunk and a mean-spirited guy, absolutely. Keep that in mind. It was a different time then. And we talk about HUAC and all of the blacklisting. Much of that was done almost kind of what we're doing right now. The government didn't do it. Studios did it. The government didn't do that. So when you're banned from Instagram, the government says, we didn't ban you. Instagram did. No, but the government told them. Oh, we didn't tell them. Then, of course, the Twitter files showed that up. But remember, history would be a wonderful thing if only it were true. Don't repeat certain things that are part of the trope, the tropisms, the memes, the memetics, the lore. We tend to repeat these things over. I knew about Oppenheimer before it was fashionable. I'm sure you did, Sparky. By the way, thank you, sir. I remember Fat Man and Little Boy and just the genius behind it. And Leslie Groves. Oh, my God. This was the guy who just... But it was a different time. Look at Paperclip. Look at how we kind of looked the other way. And there's no way that the government would ever say, look, we know he's a commie, and that's the way he goes. And by the way, we're not talking about ideological and communism in terms of, planned governments and planned economies and that, textbook economic sense of socialism. This is a different story. It was a different world. What we did regarding Paperclip was still ungodly, but we needed the information. We needed the data. And how we basically signed off on so many of these people so I'm just saying, that's the way it was. And there were a lot of commies, loads of them. In fact, FDR was remember at that time, it was the zeitgeist. I hate to keep bringing that up. The zeitgeist. Post-World War I, post-Depression, what the Depression did. Men who fought in World War I. Remember the bonus riots and the marches and the camps. Remember how they in Washington they had these camps that were set up. And who did they unleash to go after them? Douglas MacArthur. In a brutal attack, brutal horseback. And so there's a lot of folks who said, wait a minute, what's going on here? It was poverty nobody's ever seen before. So the notion of communism and socialism and class struggle, it was prime for that at the time. Prime. We still have a connotation of communism as being somehow totalitarian. That's not what their thing was. That's not what they were talking about. Always ask yourself the zeitgeist. What were people thinking? What were the spirit of the times? If you cannot understand World War II unless you understand post-World War I Germany and the Weimar and what the Treaty of Versailles did in the sense of humiliation. And you can't understand how this thing works. You will never be able to understand slavery unless you understand the way people thought then. We recoiled at the notion of segregation. There are parts of this country that said, and also not necessarily all folks were black, but remember school busing? What was the biggest problem with did black people want to associate with white people necessarily? Was that what it was about? Was busing so that we can all get along? No, it's because black students, black people, black citizens were denied the most basic of education, the most basic. And they realized that if they keep living on the outskirts, if they keep going to these inferior schools and these inferior places, they will never be able to enjoy the level of education that white kids have. So they said, how come, all these white kids are going to these good schools? So they said, let's bus to take black kids to these schools. White people said, we live across the street. White people had a good point. Black people had a good point. But do you think Black people wanted integration? Do you think they were so desirous to rub shoulders and rub with white people? No. I mean, some might have been, but that wasn't the motivation. Understand the zeitgeist at the time. McCarthy didn't really go after Oppenheimer. Commies claimed him because he was a sympathetic character. When he lost his clearance, he was expiring the next day anyway. Very well could be, but just remember one thing. And by the way, Sparky, thank you so much. Listen, you're not going to get 100% clearance from me regarding Oppenheimer. It was what it was. And I'm not going to sit back and second guess any of this stuff at this point. It's very easy for me, hindsight being 2020 and history being very easy at this particular point. White Monkey says, heading to KC this weekend with my son for a concert. Remember to live your life, but always be aware and to be prepared. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you, White Monkey. What concert? By the way, good luck. Thank you so much. A little hand fart for you. What concert are you seeing, pray tell? I have not been to any concerts in so long, and I do not necessarily remember this. Anyway, let me know. Let me know if you're going. White Monkey, tell me what concert. Well, if you have to tell me the concert, maybe you don't want us to know. Maybe it's a silly concert. In any event, people have a hard time though explaining the truth. I heard the other day a very interesting theory that was posed by none other than a formidable disc jockey here in the New York area, named Scott Shannon. And he said that Taylor Swift is in essence today's version of the Beatles. Taylor Swift is so big, so enormous, sells out concerts with such a ferocity. There is nobody remotely near her in terms of her fan appeal. She can sell out a concert 3, 4, 5 days. Wherever she goes, she can sell out a football game if people think she's going to be there. Now, the reaction, of course, was, I don't like Taylor Swift. I'm going to deny the facts. That's what we do. I'm going to deny the facts. I don't like Taylor Swift, so what you're saying can't be true. I think she's an idiot, so what you're saying can't be true. The real story about Taylor Swift that everybody in the business knows is another story. Okay? You understand this? Liz says she writes her own songs and music too. Could very well be. I'm not that familiar. Do you know her father? They have a company that basically brings the truck company that sends her entire act on the road. The Stones did that. And then they basically use this company to likewise work for other companies. I mean, it's just a brilliant. But the point I'm trying to say is, whether you like her or not is a different story. And whether you understand that Oppenheimer at the time could have very easily, communism was not communism then than it is now. Communism then was, and the people who claimed not to be commies were communist. But that does not necessarily mean you're a Stalinist. That doesn't necessarily mean they had a big problem. A lot of the folks who were initially leftist, who were intellectual leftists, had a hard time with Stalin because they saw the draconian, gulags and all these horrible things. So remember, always look at realism. Ask yourself, what is the reality? And go back to what I said before about busing. Do you think did Black people want to truly integrate with white people because they were dying to share culture and share friendship and to rub, or did they want there to be a parity, a level playing field so that they can enjoy the same rights, the same opportunities, the same abilities that white folks had? I think it's the latter. I don't think people necessarily yearn to mix and to whatever. Not that people hate each other, but people tend to be kind of provincial, not Catholic with a lowercase c, not universal. So that's what this is about. People always have this. Black Americans have always said, look, we want to have what you have. We don't necessarily want you. We want your rights. We want the same rights you have. We want to be treated the same. Why Monkey says bands from the 80s, The Mission and the Chameleons playing a small bar called Record Bar, meeting up with my best friend and his son. That is excellent. And by the way, why always celebrate local music, live music, and the like. Don't forget February 3rd, the Cutting Room. We're going to be back. That's going to be something. I've got no problem with saying what things really are, what things really explaining reality. And reality is always the best way to go. It's realism. Tell me what the truth is. Not what I think it is. Tell me what the truth is. Tell me what it is about. And people hate the truth. They hate it. They want to tell you everything but. You understand this? You understand this? Now, one of the things which is also very important to recognize is that political things are very important too. If you want to win politically, let me ask you something. Is it a good idea for a politician to come out and to talk about God and Jesus all the time? George Bush sure did. And George Bush may have done that because of his own particular demon battle with the bottle and all that stuff. But do you think it's a good idea for Trump or whatever to talk about the Bible and quote the Bible and Bible and Bible? I don't. To have faith is one thing. To push is another. You think it's a good idea to mandate or to suggest that there be a ban on abortion? Absolutely not. That's a ticket to Loserville. Sparky says, since World War One, I'm sorry. I don't know why I saw that. Small world. I went to 4th to the 6th grade with Oppenheimer's nephew. Didn't know the significance at the time. Didn't see a picture of Oppenheimer until years later. Nephew looked just like him. He was also, did you see how young he was when he died? He's like 60. He looked he smoked. My God. Smoked like did they not know? He weighed nothing at the time. He was so brilliant. I think he taught himself Danish or he became interested in a rock collection. His family was very wealthy. I think his brother, who basically was blackballed permanently, just sold a couple pieces of art, lived off it for the rest of his life. His mother was a prolific art collector, a matron, so to speak. It's interesting. But remember, just say things what they were. Remember, Ronald Reagan was absolutely what you would call a lefty. There's no doubt about that. There are people like Bork was a socialist, or was a Marxist. Robert Bork, Thomas Sowell, Christopher Hitchens. You go through periods of time where you say to yourself, I'm more amenable to this. There was a time when I think a lot of my friends liked this sense of namby-pamby. It was very easy for me to do it because it was merely ideology. I wasn't actually implementing any particular, policy. I wasn't a politician, so I could say whatever I wanted. But I very rarely have changed my opinion. Oh, here's one for you. I changed my opinion completely I fine-tuned my opinion regarding legalization of prostitution. Prostitution should be illegal for the prostitute, not the pimp, not the human trafficker, and not the John. Absolutely not. Prostitution is horrid. So a prostitute herself should not be prosecuted. Everybody else, different story. As far as drug legalization is one of these things that will always stand for the proposition that I know in my heart it is right, but it's horrible. You're going to get so much bad stuff. When you do you believe people have the right to commit suicide? I do. When you do that, you're going to have more suicide. When you want to legalize drugs, you're going to have more drug use, more overdose, more whatever, concomitantly. As a result, without a doubt, that's the natural byproduct of that. If you have the ability to, let's say, open carry or possess a firearm, either at home privately or in your car, you're going to have more instances where a kid gets into it, finds the gun, shoots himself negligently. Absolutely, positively. That's a result. That happens. It's just the way it goes. The more drugs you have in the market, the more overdose. The faster cars, more death. The faster the speed limits. I mean, they're just things that just the better the selection of food, the greater the amount of overweight and obesity. Guaranteed. This is just a natural byproduct of this. I understand it. But we're going to have to redo the way we think about a lot of stuff. And it's not about being a conservative. It's about being a common sense American. You got that? Now, one more thing, dear friends, I'm going to tell you about this. I heard the other day an impassioned description and interview with Mike Lindell from My Pillow. And it broke my heart how this man who's trying he just wanted to make money, have this great product, have a factory, employ his workers, put out a product, and be able to concomitantly and simultaneously say what he wants regarding Donald Trump and the Constitution. And the people who knew better than him said, oh, no, you don't. No, you're not going to do this. We're not going to let you do this. Oh, really? No, we're not going to let you do this. We're not going to let you do this. So I don't want you to go to mypillow.com, promo code Lionel, because you feel sorry for him. It just so happens these are the greatest products in the world that people love. My most prized possession is this one kind of a small pillow that just fills in that perfect gap when you're trying to read or watch TV or whatever you're trying to do. It's perfect. Can't buy it anywhere except for mypillow.com. It's wonderful. Sheets, slippers, you name it. So go there, use promo code Lionel or call 800-645-4965, 800-645-4965. That is the place. It is mypillow.com, and they are wonderful, and he is a genius, and I support him, and I want you to support him as well. White Matter says, I've been pretty much liberal my whole life, yet they moved the goalpost, and now I'm considered far right. I've altered my thoughts on many issues. Oh, I have too. Very, very, very. You know, it's funny. First, and I think you know this about me. I hope you know, Mr. Monkey. I don't have labels. I don't know what the labels mean. The hardest thing is I've always had this one. They said, "Are you an atheist?" I'm saying I don't even know what that means. Well, do you not believe in God? I don't. You're asking me if I believe. I say, why don't you ask me what my thoughts are? Am I an atheist regarding witchcraft? I'm not trying to compare the two, but I don't have a word for that. I don't have an opinion on witchcraft. I don't know anything about it. I also don't speak French. I don't. There's no word for not speaking French. So again, these things, these categories don't make sense to me. Are you a liberal, conservative? I don't know. I don't know what that means. I think it's common sense. I think it's absolutely common sense. Sparky says, it was said that Oppenheimer survived on cigarettes and coffee while General Leslie Groves ate donuts and slept well. You know, it's funny how we again, Sparky, thank you. It's funny how cigarettes, nobody really thought. Remember when doctors, there were these, was it parliamenters? They said 9 out of 10 doctors recommend what? You notice how we don't see that many, I don't see that many cigarettes like we used to. I don't at all. I don't see them. And this was without the government doing it. People just on their own said, you know what? This just isn't going to work. And it wasn't because they raised the taxes and all that kind of. I don't even know what cigarettes in New York could be $20 a pack. I have no idea. I don't. Sometimes it always shocks me. But see what happens when you let people just make up their own mind? When you let people make up their own mind, they have this incredible, this uncanny ability to say, you know what, I don't think this is a good idea, and they will change accordingly. That's all. My friends, you are without peer. I want to thank you. Sparky, I thank you immensely. White Monkey, I thank you. You are so terrific. You are the reason God made Oklahoma. Silver Fox, I thank you. Edie Crowley, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, in New York today, it's a beautiful day. It is so gorgeous in terms of how it is overcast. It is dreary, and I am spending I'm learning so very much. So remember, recap. Nobody is apparently seeking any kind of attempt to help or to guide Tucker Carlson regarding his trajectory. Interviewing Bill O'Reilly was like so pedestrian, so low rent, with all due respect. And for him to bleat this blather regarding his version of the Kennedy assassination, I think is intellectually disingenuous and painful. So that's that. Second of all, let us remember we've been talking about Bobby Kennedy, and I think I have two different vectors. Number one, for there to be a Trump presidency, because remember, he's in essence, he's chemotherapy for this country. Because what we're in right now is a form of a cancer. And number two, if it helps to destroy in some way the efficacy, the legitimacy, and the utility of the Democratic Party, this iteration of it, fine. If you went back to the Democratic Party of the 60s, 70s even, I could dig it. Barry Taylor says, I don't want to belong to any club that would accept me as one of its members. Groucho Marx. Absolutely, Barry. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Groucho Marx was more important than anybody really gives him any credit for. Did you know that? Groucho Marx was anarchic. He really was. He was a revolutionary, and he was wonderful. And he was never really, I think, given the attention that he really truly deserved in any event. Dear friends, I thank you. I thank you immensely. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your effort. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your support. Thank you for everything. Remember, believe what you want. Listen to as many people as possible. Don't be afraid of that. But don't accept anything. Listen to it as a suggestion. Verify it yourself. That's all. Whether I say it or anybody else for that matter. That's it. And you